Hi everyone, I'm Rob Ladd of the Cavalier Sports Report at Johnson County Community College. We've almost reached the end of a decade, and it's time to take a look back at the first 10 years of the new millennium. My first guest is the head coach of the men's basketball team and has been for the last 20 years. He's won 2 national championships. Mike Jeffers is our guest. Coach Jeffers, thank you for joining us.
It's good to be here, Rob.
Sitting to his right is the former head coach of the women's volleyball team for 11 years. She is an NJCAA Hall of Famer and a national champion here at Johnson County. Jill Stinson is our guest.
Hi, Barb.
And finally, to the far right, he was a cross-country athlete in 1986 and is now the facility, camps, and clinics coordinator here at Johnson County Community College. He is also the brainchild of the Cavalier Sports Report and is responsible for all of us being here ultimately, Jim Dice.
Thanks, Rob, but I was a track athlete. You don't get like this with a cross-country body.
Oh, did I say cross-country? That is my mistake.
That's all right.
Track and field, and also Olympic weightlifting. We want to keep Jim happy as we can.
Yep. Thanks, Rob.
Jim, we're actually going to start with you because you have kind of the rare experience of being both a student athlete here at the college and now a member of the athletic department. What would you say is the biggest change or biggest changes from then to now if you're a student athlete here on campus?
Well, I was here in '86, so I was 12, but I've been here around a lot. But the athletes are the same. You still play the game, you still score the points, but I think what we see is the way they communicate now, communication with their cell phones, text messaging. I think that's where we see a lot of changes, is how they communicate with each other. So, but everything else is pretty much the same.
Yeah, 20, 25 years ago, kids actually talked to each other. And that's probably one of our biggest challenges. I know from a basketball standpoint, you really want your players to communicate on the floor and talk. And that's probably one of our biggest emphasis every year is getting these guys to talk and communicate. But, you know, just dovetailing on Jim, yeah, the technology that's involved anymore with the Twitter and the Facebook and how it affects each individual team and the things that the coaches go through and trying to get their players to communicate, it can kind of be a double-edged sword.
I think with the women, it's changed somewhat with the athlete. You know, before it was those 3-sport athletes, you know, the real athletes who wanted to be involved in everything were coming, and just their drive and desire. And now you don't have those kids anymore. So you're really select about what sport they're going into, and you tend to trend towards physical for sure, but also social. I mean, volleyball is a very, very social sport. It's a very communicative, smallest court, largest number of people, and that communication certainly has become a factor. But I think I certainly changed the way that I coached the kids. One of my players, something happened at a former player's happened at a game that she came to watch, and she came down afterwards and said, if we would have done that, you would have, you know, yelled at you. And I said, it was good for you guys. It worked. You responded to that. And I said, this group doesn't respond to that. And my job as a 2-year coach especially is to get these kids to play, because I get them together for 1 semester. That's really all we get. And so I had to make a lot of adjustments to what my kids needed. They do need a little bit more understanding. They do need a little more support. We need a little more self-esteem from top to bottom. You know, you still have your kids to do, but and yeah, I think it does come from their surroundings and their support and the communication that they have. It's just an instant thing, and when it doesn't come instantly on the court, they don't always get that.
Well, on the communication side, especially with the technology, we see a lot of it with cell phones. I mean, obviously a lot of it's on the internet. And Coach Stinson, you mentioned to me in our talks last week that you waited quite a while before you converted over to the cell phone.
Yeah, you know, it's just, I like my privacy. I like my time. If I needed a cell phone, either my assistant coach or my players had one. It's when I had kids and I realized that I probably need to be able to be reached at times. That's when I started carrying a cell phone. But literally within 2 years, our means of contact changed from calling kids to texting. And once, I mean, you text a player regardless, of what time, and you get a message back very quickly.
You get some kind of response. That's the one thing with texting or instant messaging. It's less intrusive into a recruit's life or another coach that, you know, you're maybe getting a hold of a four-year coach that's recruiting one of your players. Is you'll get something back from that person probably within a couple of minutes, usually, regardless of where they are, what they're doing. You know, you read stories all the time. This team's playing in the Final Four, and the assistant coach is sitting there texting, you know, a recruit that they're recruiting. Now, they can't do that now, but 10 years ago, when there wasn't NCAA regulations on those kind of things, it was happening all the time. You know, we're in the Final Four, and you know, you're getting this message from me. This shows you how much we really want you here at School X. And, you know, the texting, the communication with players, you know, and again, players I think are pretty much the same. They want to be coached. They want to be disciplined. They're going to get away with what you let them get away with on the floor, regardless of, or on the field, regardless of what sport it is. Where I see the changes in the last 10 years, as opposed to my first 10 years, is the people around them are the ones that have changed a lot. The parents, the grandparents, the girlfriends, the mentors, the handlers, the AAU coaches, that one person that thinks, well, if I'm associated with this young man or woman, they're maybe going to be a pro one day, and maybe I'll be their agent or something like that.
And along with that, Mike, though, is the media.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't, you know, do anything, a professional athlete or collegiate athlete, without the world knowing
what
it.
you did, or being on YouTube.
So, yeah, absolutely, on YouTube, because so it's so instantaneous like that, too. And, you know, most kids are still not mature enough to understand that, you know, not all contact or not all, you know, videos and exposure is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's too late before they realize what they've done. You know, we still see the worst in people in the media. We do a lot because that's a story. You know, the Jimmy V Classic last night, I was watching that. I mean, that is an awesome thing. We're really pushing things, and that was good. Everything was good about that. But, you know, and then running down at the bottom on ESPN is about, you know, somebody being dropped from a team, a coach being fired.
Yeah.
You know,
Everything
nothing about the kid that, you know, donated, you know, organs or, you know, those kind of things. So it's a lot of things going on, I think. Communication, but also the media, too, because it's instantaneous. With you guys, is it with the media as well?
And
somebody
players,
shoots a YouTube and it's on.
And then on the flip side, your players want instant success.
Yes.
Because everything else is instant. And that's probably the thing that takes the longest to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And having them be patient and wait, and I think that's why you see so many transfers and people that go from school to school, and they do not get what they want right away, and they're not willing just to stay there and work for it.
We've had more of those, like, bounce back kids. My last few years of coaching, then we have, you know, I don't know that we really had any for several years, and I think it's a combination of not really the selling point of a student athlete, you know, being sold on a place that really may not be their best fit for them, and the other is, you know, that instant success. You know, you want to go, you were the star on your team, and you want to go and you want to play, and maybe you can't, or maybe you don't because everybody else on that college team is, so you're unhappy. And instead of biding your time and getting your chance, you leave. And you know, good, bad, or indifferent, I think that's happening more as well because they're just not able to jump in and get going.
Has it changed the way that you recruit players when you look at the amount of handlers that are out there, the amount of people that are around the players, but also the need for instant success? I mean, what's your recruiting pitch like? If I'm an athlete that wants to come to Johnson County, I want to play right away, but maybe I'm not ready. I mean, what do you tell a player when you're trying to get them to come on campus?
Well, the first thing, you know, we identify is that, one, are they a good enough player to play in our league and play our schedule? As we start recruiting a young man, like I said, I've been here 20 years, and Jill coached here. Jim, you know, was here as a student athlete too. it's more about Johnson County Community College sells itself, okay? The academic programs here, the facilities, the environment in which a young man or young lady is going to have an opportunity to go to school in here is phenomenal on the 2-year level compared with anybody else in any other school that they might be recruited by at the 2-year level, okay? Then we have to sell our basketball program, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that in the last 10 years, in this first decade of the new millennium, convincing young men that this is a great place to start a career, either academically, if that's the support system and the way you need to go, or is it a situation where you need to have the physical development? Because we have both. You just, as a player, and that's one of the first things we talk about, you do not wind up at a junior college or at a community college for no reason at all. There's a reason you're there. It's either academic, it's either social, or it's physical. And once those players figure out why they're really here, then they've got a really good chance to be successful. And we just try to recruit the best kids we can that will fit our style of play, that will fit our school, fit our community, and is a total good fit for our program.
I think that's really true. You know, I never really considered myself a very good recruiter because, you know, this is what we have, this is what I have to offer. These are the things that you should expect from Johnson County, and these are the things that I expect from you. And that's really it. I'm not going to call you, I'm not going to text you, I'm not going to do all of those things. This is what we have. This is how I think it'll benefit you and us. And you know, the choice is yours. So then you get phone calls back. Well, somebody offered me this and somebody offered me that more. Okay, this is what I have and this is what I after. And it is the beauty of, it's kind of the beauty and the beast of Johnson County is that I loved recruiting to Johnson County because I knew what it was about, and we knew the kind of kids and the kind of players that we wanted that fit in here. The beast of it is that we do have some restrictions. You know, we do have some things that kids kind of go, you don't have dorms, you don't have this, you don't have that. You know, I don't, well, and I think it's obvious at this level in the Division II that I don't think dorms are a big thing. When people walk on this campus with their parents and with the students, you know, they see what we have, you know, the expansion and the things that we have, they see that, and they're either enthralled with it or they're a little intimidated somewhat by it. So recruiting was, for me, it wasn't, I mean, it's fun to get to know the people and the kids, but, you know, it's a process where this is what I have, this is what and I want you to come, and now the decision is yours. And usually those kids, the ones that fit the style, my style, that didn't need all that hands-on, are usually the kids that I got. So
I think a lot of our coaches here at Johnson County are, this is who we are, this is what we're all about. If this is what you really are looking for, this is a great place to be. And we really kind of probably changed a little bit of our recruiting philosophy after a few years of being here. Instead of going out and just trying to get the best players that we could get, a lot of times they weren't good academic fits. They weren't mature enough to live off campus in an apartment if they were going to have to do that. I don't care if they were coming from Chicago or coming from Emporia. You know, they're still going to have to be here and live off campus. So we really kind of, you know, really narrowed down in the recruiting process the type of young man that was going to have a chance to be successful. Now, are we 100% accurate? No coach is 100% accurate in bringing in and putting their team together. But I think we've done a pretty good job of identifying those people that do have a chance here. And it is. I mean, it's a great school academically. You're going to have to produce in the classroom. You're going to have to produce on the court, on the field, and they've got to know that. My philosophy, a little bit like Jill's, is that this is who we are. This is the way it's going to be. We're not going to babysit you when you're here. We're not going to babysit you recruiting you. We're not going to call you 8 times a week like some of the other junior colleges are going to do. If you truly want to be here, we want you here. And we let them know that up front.
And I do think that the change we made with many of our programs going from Division I to Division II made a huge difference. You know, when we first went and you guys won that first year, you know, that was just really exciting. You know, Lori Mallory was our athletic director then, and she had come into me and asked, what do you think we should do? And I said, well, what do you want? If you want our chances to win a national title to increase, we need to play against teams that we're like. But she says, well, you're successful already. You're finishing second and third in the region. And I said, you're right, but we're not ever going to be, I'm never going to beat consistently those teams that bring in the foreign players and that have the dorms and can do those guys. And I said, and quite honestly, the type of player that I look at is probably a little different. And so when Mike won, you know, and she got back, she came in, you know, oh my gosh, that was a great experience. And I think our exposure has increased a lot. And I think people understand a little bit more about who we are now.
And a lot of what we're hearing about is the reputation of the college and the facilities and the coaches, and that players probably know. Jim, when you're helping coordinate camps and clinics here on campus, whether it be in the off season, the summer, what's the reaction like from youth coaches, high school coaches, and their parents when they come to the college?
Well, we do have some great facilities. The indoor, the field house, you know, we can handle large tournaments, large groups. But I think a lot of it is these high school kids in Overland Park, we've taken a step back with their outdoor facilities. If you look at the soccer complex down on 135th Street, I mean, what do they have, 18 fields, AstroTurf. Pretty much all the Blue Valley school districts have AstroTurf on their outdoor fields, and they can handle more events, less rainouts than we do. We used to be, on our outdoor facilities, the premier. When a local kid would come here, you were stepping up to come here. Now, we haven't caught up yet, and I think that's a lot of it is that we need to step up our outdoor facilities and indoor.
Yeah. A lot of our indoor facilities need remodeling. Outdoor facilities need to be totally redone. We're not really, right now, you know, when I came in '91 and you compared Johnson County Community College to Johnson County high schools, we were, you know, we kind of a plum. And now it's a lot of the high schools, new high schools, their gyms, their locker rooms, their facilities, the baseball fields are just, you know, when a young man or young lady goes from high school to college, that should be a step up. You know, I'm going to a bigger school. It's not going to be like high school anymore. Facilities are going to be better, and that was the one thing probably in the last decade we haven't done. Mm-hmm. We haven't kept up facility-wise with just the local high schools.
The field house was a nice addition.
That was a nice addition.
I mean, you can see that with baseball and softball.
That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, that was 10 years ago. They were able to, the baseball and softball now can practice inside almost year-round or work out year-round, and you can see some of their successes come from that. You know, their baseball team, they're leading in hitting. Softball's been to nationals. But when you look at their outside fields, they kind of take a step back. And with this economy that we're in, it's a challenge to try to upgrade your facilities as well, and then, you know, have nice things for them and keep recruiting.
And I was going to ask about that is economically in these tough times where everyone is trying to do more with less, especially when you start talking about these successive teams, because generally speaking, my understanding is that the athletic budget, you know, kind of as a whole, you've got to factor in, you know, if teams go into nationals and buses or a van and things like that. How do you do more with less? Would you say that that's maybe one of the struggles of the next 10 years is finding a way to finding the money and resources to kind of get the job done?
I think you have to be creative. I think we have some opportunities with the social media that we're doing that we in the past we never could go get sponsorship, and now I think we can start moving towards sponsorship with, you know, sponsoring YouTube, our Twitter accounts, our media guide. We never used to do that, and I think that's where we're going to move in that direction. But that's a small piece of the puzzle. Yeah. There's other things that we need to do to move and generate some funds.
Yeah, it's going to just take a lot more creative thought process and how to at least do the same. As the last decade, you know, athletically, You can just look at what is it? What's called the Pepsi Cup at one time. I'm not sure what it was.
Natica Cup, I think,
Natica
is what
Cup
we've
or
got.
whatever. Where was 2-3 years ago? We were the #1 athletic program in the whole country. The #1 athletic program in the whole country for junior college, scholarship, non-scholarship, didn't matter. We were there.
And we've been second or third.
Second or third, been in
every
the top
year.
5 almost every year. And we didn't do that in the 90s or the 80s. We've done that in this new decade. And that's with the predominant number of teams on our campus being Division II. And, and to be more creative, to be able to maintain that. I heard something on the radio yesterday talking about some high schools, and just to be able to in public schools in other places, they're thinking about now letting marketing companies come in and put banners and labels on lockers and market and do things in the public schools that they've never allowed in the past because they need the funds. They need the funds, and it will be an interesting challenge from a coaching standpoint, how to maintain where we are, maybe with what we have now that's not going to get increased, or do the same with less. And I think that's every athletic department's challenge right now.
And it seems like as far as doing more with less and kind of staying in the top of technology, and you mentioned the Facebook, the Twitter, and the YouTube, the opportunities for sponsorship. How important is it for the college to kind of stay cutting edge on technology-wise, especially when a Facebook account is free, a Twitter account is free, YouTube is free. It's a free way to get yourself out. And Jim, I know you've had a big part of that here at the college and kind of getting word out about what's going on here athletically.
Well, the coaches came to us and said that, we're not getting anything out on us, no news. What was who was the Kansas City Star guy?
David Boyce was
David
the Kansas
Boyce.
City Star beat reporter and he covered small college and.
Yeah, but it'd be like we'd have to win nationals and we get maybe a sentence or two in there. And so the coaches came to Carl and said we want more media and more in the news. And so what the Facebook and the Twitter and YouTube has allowed us to create our own news. Mm-hmm. Now, the challenge is you have to get people to follow you. And, with us doing these YouTube videos, we have over 10,000 hits on the videos that we've done with your guys' help, And what's really nice is now we have students who are running our you're a student, the guys behind the camera up in this booth are students, and that's something that the students are doing this, so everyone's learning. We're getting a value out of that. We're getting in the news. People can follow us. We have our athletes who are student athletes who are getting experience. You guys you're getting experience. They're getting experience. Everyone is, and that's the beauty of it. Is this cool thing that we're doing is we're getting out. We're getting what we want, and we're getting other people experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got alumni and former players and parents of former players that are now more in tune with what they're still following, even though that kid may not have played here for 15, 20 years. They're still following Johnson County Community College, and either through the conference website, our own website, the Twitter, the Facebook. What we are doing is now more out there. It's more accessible. If you want to find it and find out, you can find it, and you can find out what's going on here at Johnson County Community College.
Yeah, trying to get more of the kids on campus, being able to host more events that those recruitable players can come on campus for. We've had some restrictions about we couldn't, whether we could run tournaments and whether we could do those things. But, being able to bring them on campus and, maybe we don't have the flair and the facilities that we have, but at least we get them on there, we get to see them, we get to, meet parents and do those kind of things. So it would really be nice if we could have more opportunities to do those types of things. And it's out there. We need to make some changes so that we have more freedom, I guess, to do some things like that.
Now, YouTube and social media have kind of exploded in the last couple of years, and it's allowed us to do things like this show and kind of get it out for people to see. Anyone can get online and view that. It's also changed, I think, recruiting a little bit. And Coach Jeffers, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, that you now have players who can make their own highlight videos, and it's kind of had to change the way you judge a player's talent.
Yeah, it's, I went to a high school tournament yesterday. I sat there for 5 hours and watched 4 different high school games, which for me is still the best way to evaluate, because the YouTubes, the DVDs that we get constantly, the highlights, you're seeing the best of the best of the best of that young man or young woman, and you can get fooled and you can get tricked because you're just seeing their best. And it's, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. It can be really good and really helpful in identifying a prospective student athlete, but it also can lead you down a path where that young man's not quite good enough to play here. He's not a good enough student to be here. So you still got to be careful. You know, the access is there, but you still have to tread lightly and sort through all that.
I think when videos first started coming out, we thought, oh, this is really awesome, because you not only get to see the one kid, you get to see that full team. And then all of a sudden, people are making videos and charging kids for that. And it's, you know, it's their best hit and their best thing. And all you see is that one player. And so we had to change how we looked at those videos. I mean, quite honestly, a lot of videos we'd get, you know, yeah, okay, right. Because as soon as you started seeing highlights, you think, you know, you're not seeing really what they have. And so I think they're getting better at giving you a better video. But, you know, we want to see the mistakes. We need to see how you respond to those things. And so maybe they're learning that a little bit. But, yeah, it was at first we thought, this is awesome. And, yeah, more work. Because you got to track down who they were playing and what that team's record was, and you know, it's. I mean,
you know, you talk about the economics of it. I mean, that's where economically it was great.
Yeah.
Because you could sit there and get a DVD from a kid in Colorado, or a kid from Junction City would send you a DVD, and you didn't have to spend the time, the money to drive there, or whatever, and try to evaluate that. And you know, just with the economics of recruiting, you know, we're going to have to rely on that a little more. So we're just going to have to be smarter in how to evaluate it and how to use it.
Well, luckily here at the College of Johnson County, we have a pretty experienced staff, a lot of people that seem to be taking the athletic department in the right direction. For Coach Mike Jeffers, Jill Stinson, and Jim Dice, my name is Rob Ladd. This is the Cavalier Sports Report. Thank you for joining us all year. We'll see you next time.
And I want